Open this up with our prayer, and it Wayatana laka alahayama matala Shemayama wamasha manaya Haratis Rabba Dagana Wata Yurasha Yabada Waka Amayama Wayasha Dakha Wawa Lakala Mayama Hawaha Kabayura La'acha Yaka Wayasha Dakha Wawalaka Banaya Amaka Harara Yaka Ara Wara Wama Baraka Yaka Wara Waka. And may the Elohims give thee of the dew of heaven, and the fatness of the earth, and plenty of corn and wine. Let people serve thee, and nations bow down to thee. Be Lord over thy brethren, and let thy mother's son bow down to thee. Cursed be they that curse thee, and blessed be they that bless thee. It is our time, and all things are based on time, that Yahweh God has told us things that is coming to pass. We must prepare ourselves in righteousness, and righteousness is in keeping of the commandments. There's no other direction for us other than obedience. Without obedience, there's no direction for us who are Israelites, because we have a covenant, an agreement. Is this not everybody is under the commandment, but we are under the covenant, the agreement to keep. That's why it says in there, it said, let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear Elohim and keep his commandment, for this is the whole duty of Adam. But we who are Adam, but Yahweh God, he came to us and he gave us a covenant, an agreement that we would do it. So let me read our other prayer and then get into our direction. Khanaha Malaka Yahawaha Sabayaba La Yura Yuwa Wayacha Latis Ma. And the angel of Yahweh encamped round about them that fear him, and he delivered them. Yatisra Samawaka the Tisra Shalawama Shalawama Kaya Baka Bata Waka Batakawa Bayahawaha Ataya Ata Kaya Bayaha Yahawaha Tiswara Walayama. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusts in thee. Trust in Yahweh. Yahweh is everlasting strength. It is now, at this time upon the earth, that we shall acquire a great skill in this book that they call the Bible, which it is a Tanakh. Why should we acquire the skill? So we may have absolute direction. And that's what we're going to be talking about. What is the absolute direction that we should be following? Yabarakaka Yahawaha Wayasha Maraka Yara Yahawaha Panayawa Alayaka Wayachanaka Yasha'a Yahawaha Panayawa Alayaka Wayashama Laka Shalawama. Yahweh bless thee and keep thee. Yahweh make his face to shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. Yahweh lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. As we begin to open up the Tanakh, and I like to start from Genesis chapter 12 because it opens up the door and therefore it continues. Genesis chapter 12 verse 1 says, Now Yahweh has said unto Abraham, Get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house unto a land that I will show thee. And I will make of thee a great nation. And from here, that word nation is what we must understand. Yahweh God is going to deal with nations of people. He's not going to deal with color, because in that nation there can be a variety of colors. But all of us come from a nation or a group of people. So when you start dealing with preference of black, white, green, and all the other shades, when we deal with nationality, we understand the circumstances to be clear. So from Genesis chapter 12, starting from verse 1 to 2, where he says, "And I will make you a great nation, and I will bless thee and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse them that curse thee, and in thee shall all the families of the earth be blessed." Now this is how the structure of things are put. Yahweh God began to structure things by nations of people, not color. You understand? Nations of people. And therefore, when we begin to understand that, it takes away the prejudice of one being of a color. But what we must understand that Yahweh God definitely, and I would like to read in Genesis chapter 11, verse 32. "These are the families of the sons of Noah after their generations in their nations, and by these were the nations divided in the earth after the flood." So they were divided as nations of people, not as color. So let's not deal with color. Because if we deal with color, I mean, did these people have a particular shade of color? Of course. But at the same time, when you want to actually know what gives a person an identity, it would be the nation by which they would come from. And all through the scripture, it talks about the nation, not color. You understand? Because you lose the real understanding when you start dealing with color. So when we go on to even prove that it stands to have truth to it, we must continue to read and make and understand, not only just say it, but how is it verified. I would like to also explain that what we first read in Genesis chapter 12 was talking about Abraham, and that he would be a blessing to all the families of the earth. But when we go on, when Abraham had Isaac and he was going to sacrifice him, and I like to read from Genesis 22 starting at 15. "And the angel of Yahweh called unto Abraham out of heaven the second time, and said, By myself have I sworn, said Yahweh, for because thou hast done this thing, and hast not withheld thy son, thy only son, that in blessing I will bless thee, and in multiplying I will multiply thy seeds as the stars of heaven, and as the sands which is upon the seashore, and thy seed shall possess the gates of his enemies." So this is a prophecy that you must understand. He said his seed is going to, even though no matter how it is, his seed will possess the gates of his enemy. Now we go on and we will read it. That was also a similar blessing that was given to Rebekah. Now, I like to read, and it said, "And thy seed shall possess the gates of his enemy." I'm at Genesis 22, verse 17. "And in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because they have obeyed thy voice." So the blessing, it didn't say they would be cursed. The curse could only come if they did not bless their seed. He says, "And in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed." These people will possess on this earth. So when people start telling you about some blessing being in heaven, no, the blessing is walking around on 2 feet. You understand? You got to understand, it was given to Abraham, to Isaac and his seed, that they would be a blessing. And you can follow this down, all the way down, so it can make sense to you that we are the physical blessing of this earth. No one can rob it. They can want to deny it. That has nothing to do with us, because we're talking about what has been written, what has been set down. We don't have to worry about whether anybody believe us. See, you have to know. When you know, then you're not agitated when people stand up to cloud the truth. They have a right to cloud the truth. People that have been living in a lie so long, with the truth agitates them. But now, when we go to Genesis 24, verse 60, and they blessed Rebekah and said unto her, Thou art our sister, be thou mother of thousands of millions, and let thy seed possess the gates of those that hate them. He said, let thy seed. Now this is Rebekah, and this is almost a similar blessing that was given that we read earlier. And he said, and let thy seed possess the gates of those which hate them. And we're going to see who hate us. Okay. Now, it's very important. Now, that was Rebekah, because we know that Rebekah would become the wife of Isaac. And now I'm going ahead because I want to show that the beginning is also what is clarified through this whole entire Bible. It talks about nations of people.
Nation of people.
Okay, now, Genesis 25, verse 21, it said, And Isaac entreated Yahweh for his wife because she was barren. And Yahweh was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived. And the children struggled together within her. See, this is important. And she said, If it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of Yahweh. She took counsel of Yah. And Yahweh said unto her, 2 nations, see, there you go again, are in thy womb. And 2 manners, I'm at Genesis 25:23. And he says, 2 manners, they will have 2 destinies in the earth. There will be 2 brothers, but they will have 2 destinies. 2 manners of people shall be separated from thy bowels, and they would be a nation. And one people shall be stronger than the other, and the elder shall serve the younger. Now this came out of the mouth of Yahweh. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red all over like a hairy garment. Now the only reason why, if he was red all over and he had hair, is because his skin was light. It couldn't be anything else. He had very light skin, and the skin every tint was irritated by the hair that was on him. Because if he was of a dark complexion, you wouldn't know whether he was red, because evidently the hair irritated the skin. I mean, we are assuming that. That's why he says, and the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold of Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 years old when he bore them. So we can see that one was named Esau and one was named Jacob. And therefore, we know that their names was changed as it went on. And we go down to same chapter, verse 30. And Esau said unto Jacob, Feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom. So his name was called Edom, which means faint. So he had 2 names. Okay, so as we go on,
one name was Edom and the other name was Esau.
That's right, he had 2 names.
Now Edom means what? Wasted away?
No, Edom means faint. Faint. It says here, therefore was his name called Edom. It says, Feed me, I pray thee, with thy red polish, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom. So Edom evidently meant faint. So at the same time, we read that there was a blessing that would be given to two brothers. Because see, the rulers of this planet came down to two brothers, Esau and Jacob, and they would be nations. Okay? And therefore they would have a description. And the blessing that was giving Jacob was Isaac would bless him. Genesis 27, verse 27. And he came near and kissed him, and he smelled the smell of his remnant, and blessed him and said, see, the smell of my son is as the smell of a field which Yahweh has blessed. Therefore Elohim. Why the Elohim? Because Elohim is the feminine, is the creator. But when we look at Genesis, the Ruach collaborated with the Elohim, because the Elohim is feminine. It says, and the Elohim said, let there be light. It didn't say the Ruach. It said the Elohim, because the Ruach needed what is feminine to create, and what they was going to create, the aura. So here you got the feminine being given to Jacob. So Jacob would be a very creative nation of people. That's why you can see their creativity. You can see how, and through the creativity, that because the Elohims rest with them, he said, therefore Elohim give thee of the dew of heaven, and the fatness of the earth, and plenty of corn and wine. Let people serve thee, and nations bow down. See, it don't say nothing about religion. This book doesn't talk about religion. That's why when you talk about religion in any denomination, it's not written in this book. It is up to the people. If you're going to belong to Seventh-day Adventists and the Kingdom Hall, and you're going to be with the Latter-day Saints and all these things are not written in this book. It talks about nations of people. And therefore, when you understand that, you should do research, because the Bible clearly tells you who are the villains. See, there's no, you might want to blame it on somebody, but the Bible doesn't leave you to be a victim if you read it. You only become a victim because you don't read it, and you let somebody else tell you so that you can blame them. Just like it says in Isaiah 9, verse 16, for the leaders of the people cause them to error. Because the people let the leaders lead them, and they that are led of them are destroyed. So you might want to blame the leader. Well, you know, it was due to him that I'm... Well, you have to realize that the soldier that carries out the order is responsible for the order that he carries out. But he did the job. He might have was given the order, but he does the job. Therefore, he's responsible for the act. So when you know that you're responsible for when a person tells you, well, I believe something, what he's really telling you, having you have a person come up and say, do you believe that? What they're saying to me, they want me to verify or substantiate what they believe, because they're not sure of it. That's what they're saying. Do you believe that? You know, let's talk about what we know. Because if we talk about what we know, it's no longer believing. Do you know you're an Israelite, or do you believe you're an Israelite? If you know you're an Israelite, then you should keep the commandments. You should serve your God, because you know that Yahweh God. It's not about the leader, because you're supposed to read. If he said he reading the Bible, you're supposed to read behind him. Read behind him. Check him. He show you a scripture. The thing about the King James Version is one of the best translation for how we think today. If it wasn't for, if you get other versions, of the Bible. They can change a word that make you see it differently. But the translation was because a language is how you think. You think by language. So Yahweh God promised us. He promised us that in the land of our captivity, that we would have a way back. And that way back would have to be very clear. And he mentioned that here in the Bible. He said, look, with stammering lips and another tongue, I will speak to this people. In other words, this is not a language that we spoke. Yahweh said, I'm going to make it very clear to you so that you can find your way back.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? And that's in Isaiah 28, verse 11. For with stammering lips and another tongue will I speak to this people. This people who? All people or a particular people?
When we say speak to people, he's talking about the people of the nation.
That's right. He told me, he said, because this language is a stammering language.
Mm-hmm.
This ain't the language that we spoke.
Right.
So Yahweh God was telling us that he said, I'm going to speak to them in this language. I'm going to have it done to where they would understand this is their book. The Bible, what they call the Bible, which is a Tanakh, it is a story that is not fragmented. The story in this book tells about a people, and that people is Israel. And they are a nation of people, and God says that they are a nation of people. All you have to do is read it. He said they are a rebellious people, but they are a nation of people. Mm-hmm. And he made a covenant with these people. Mm-hmm. So it says here.
That's hard for a lot of people to understand, you know that.
Yeah, but if it's written, people, it says in Isaiah chapter 1, verse 3, the oxen knoweth his owner, yes, and the ass his master's tree, but Israel does not know my people. So Israel is God's people, and does not a sinful nation. They were a nation of people, a sinful nation. And see, believe me, Yahweh chose them. We did not choose Yahweh. He chose us. And Yahweh God is working everything that we would come back and be a perfect people. America is the wash for everybody. All nations that sold us into captivity is right in here. And Yahweh God is going to deliver their punishment from their ancestors. See, even though people say, well, we had nothing to do with slavery, we know that.
We killed children, paid the price.
No.
A young fellow, he bought a book for me. He said, how could the innocent children pay the price for something that their parents did? I say, because it was a contract, it was a covenant drawn up. I say, when the old people messed up, the children had to pay the price.
Well, it was not only that. When you take it to further, is that if the parents did not advise the children of the miswrong so that they could straighten out, and they perpetuated. See, most people think you always got to know to be innocent. I didn't know. See, the point about it is that your ancestors, you don't think everybody knew that they murdered the American Indians for this land?
If they don't, they're in bad shape.
Well, the point is that they do know. But
everybody knows.
So, the thing about it is, look, the only two people that is totally innocent of the circumstances that has transpired throughout the world, the black Americans do not at all make global policy. We do not make global policy what is happening in this world, nor in our community. What would you gonna stand up? We don't make it. It's made for us and is always against us. So the point is that they don't believe. When you read this book, it tells you the earth is given into the hands of the wicked. And the wicked has exempt his whole concept of thought about a God. He said, man, there ain't no God. He ain't come and help nobody else. Look, but there's a time limit. This is based on the time. Even in Habakkuk said, he asked God, he said, wrong judgment proceeded. Why does the wicked encamp around the righteous? He was perplexed. And when you read it, he says, all of this is for an appointed time. You're living in a part of creation that is based on time. And therefore, when that time is over, even in the Apocrypha, 2nd Ezra, chapter 6, it says, and he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau was born, of him Jacob hand held fast the heel of Esau. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that follows. So we are bringing about a new world, because Jacob will bring in that new world. Because when we read the blessing of our brother Esau, and that's 2nd Ezra chapter 6 verse 8 to 9. But when we read Genesis 20, Genesis.
Is that window open?
So when we look and we see the blessing of Esau, you have to understand he's a person that will bring mischief in the world. And he says, and Isaac answered and said unto Esau, behold, I have made him thy Lord. See, no matter how it looks, we are his Lord. And all his brethren have I given to him for service. The world is our servants. We're here. They here to serve us. And with corn and wine have I sustained him. And what shall I do now unto thee, my son? And Esau said unto his father, hast thou but one blessing? Now, one thing I can say about Esau, I respect that he understood the power of his father giving a blessing. I can respect that. If a lot of these children would go to their parents and say, mommy, daddy, bless me. One thing Esau said, man, but Esau don't realize he wanted to be separate, because he said two manners, two different people. He could have come to his brother and shared, but yet still he didn't realize that the blessing was in-house. But to show you the power of Isaac had so much power. Isaac's mouth, this is his mouth, because he was going to bless the two rulers of this planet. Esau and Jacob are the rulers of this planet. And it says, and Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And Isaac, now I'm reading from Genesis chapter 27, verse 38. And Isaac his father answered him and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth. Now see, he didn't bless it with God. So that means his door was open for every foul, ungodly thing you can think of. He says, and of the dew of heaven from above, because, and by thy sword thou shalt live. He said, you're going to take everything, you're going to stomp on everybody you want. If you see something you want, you're going to go and take it by might. That's going to make you right. That's what he's saying. He says, and thou shalt serve thy brother. He said, I don't care how wicked you are. It's going to come.
Esau now.
Esau, he told Esau, he said, Esau, I don't care how it's going to go. You still going to have to serve your brother. He said, you're going to do some wicked things. But you're going to, he says, and it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning for my father are at hand, then will I slay my brother Jacob. So this is a fight between the brothers. And the thing is that Esau can't win. He can't win. He can't win. This is his brother. His with all of his might. And Yahweh God can't have no mercy on Esau because of his cruelty to his own brother. And this is the thing, but Yahweh told us not to hate an Edomite, because why? He's your brother. He said, don't hate him, don't abhor him. You understand? But we
supposed to mingle with them, Rabbi? If they try to live right and honest, or are we supposed to continue?
Israel,
if we can, do we supposed to continue to be separate from them?
We are never supposed to marry into other people. We're not supposed to do that. That's we're not supposed to marry with other people. When we went into that land in the book of Joshua, he told them, he said, man, kill everybody in the land. Israel started mingling and started marrying into them. We were never supposed to do. Matter of fact, we wasn't supposed to have them in the land. Not in that land. No, they wasn't supposed to be. They was
when a stranger come into with the gleam.
No, they
is that the word?
They was not supposed to come into that land. In other words, we was supposed to make sure. We were supposed to make sure.
Well, just like when the first crops come in and we were supposed to left them on grain and whatever, barley and stuff on the ground.